Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody. It's August 16th. I'm Ryan Miller, and Hootu Wootu We Do. It's Matt Ambird.
It's too woo for you.
That's right. Is that from a movie?
It's Tu Wong Fu. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar.
Julie Newmar. Who do voodoo we do?
I don't know how you do the voodoo that you do. That's a Salt and Pepper lyric.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember if Salt or Peppa says it.
On Book Club for Movies, we listen to a Salt and Pepper album every week and then talk about it here on the show. So you can do the same.
That's why we call it Book Club for Movies. Salt and Pepper was in a movie together once with Spinderella.
What?
Yeah, it's called Stay Tuned, starring John Ritter, when John Ritter gets sucked into a TV with Pam Dauber. And it's got Jeffrey Jones as the devil.
No, I know of Stay Tuned. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen Stay Tuned, but I know of. That's a movie you absorb kind of through
osmosis.
Society.
Yeah,
yes.
It's a great movie too. Yeah.
Okay.
They have a scene in it.
Well, this week it's Hard Boiled. So
It's Salt and Pepper again. Hard boiled. You put them together. You got delicious stuffs.
You got yourself a stew.
You got yourself a stew. Appropriate.
Do you have a synopsis for Hard Boiled?
I sure
we could probably
do.
use one.
I do. Hard Boiled. Gonna come at you 2 hours and 8 minutes. Written by Barry Wong and Gordon Chen, directed by John Woo, starring Yun Fat Chow, Tony Leung, Teresa Mo, and Philip Chan. Here is your Book Club for Movies synopsis.
Okay.
When a sting operation to catch gun smugglers goes awry and turns into a massive shootout, which ends in the death of Detective Tequila's partner, he vows to seek revenge. Forced to work with an undercover cop that may have totally embraced a gangster lifestyle, Tequila must keep his eyes on his new partner and the end goal of stopping Johnny Wong and his gun smuggling operation. They say he's as tough as they come, that he's a bit of a hard-boiled detective. But is he hard enough for Johnny Wong and his crew?
Okay.
Maybe my favorite ending. It's very happy.
I think the synopses are running amok. God, they've become the draw of the show. They've become too big. It wasn't the podcast that got small.
The synopsis.
I'm so glad we watched this movie. In retrospect, we did Face Off last week. I don't know if you were here.
Heard about it.
Check it out if you haven't yet. This movie made Face Off make so much more sense.
100% it does.
Okay. I've never seen Hard Boiled before. In fact, Face Off and Mission Impossible 2 might be the only Woo movies I've actually seen.
There's so much more Woo for you.
There is. In fact, Hard Boiled is, from what I understand, the last of his Hong Kong movies before he went Hollywood.
Yep. So
it's not even the most well-regarded in Hong Kong, for that matter. So I feel like I've got a lot more work to do.
I think with him, it's either The Killers or A Better Tomorrow.
I think those are the two you hear about most often.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Hard Boiled, I think, is still my favorite, but the other two, like all of his Hong Kong films are and The Killers and A Better Tomorrow, absolutely incredible.
And I think we'll get to why Hard Boiled did so much better with Western audiences in this thing, because we got into that maybe a little bit with Face Off as well.
Sure.
That being kind of this weirdly self-serious yet blockbuster type extravaganza thing.
Sure.
Hard Boiled maybe not quite there in some ways, but maybe more than there in others.
Interesting. Yeah. Tell me of your homeworld, Usul. And while you're doing that, explain to me your perception and your thoughts on John Woo's Hard Boiled.
So Hard Boiled starts beautifully. One of my favorite maybe beginning shots from a movie.
Oh, sure. The jazz, all the jazz stuff?
Well, the jazz, and also just it's because it's him in a jazz club titled, did you see what the name of the jazz club was?
I didn't.
Jazz Club.
Is it just Jazz Club?
It's Jazz Club.
Good.
There's a sign in the back that says
you
Jazz
just gotta
Club.
be clear about your motivations when you're making a club like that.
Completely fits with the beginning of this thing, but just that first shot though on the glass actually
with the tequila
is gorgeous. Yeah,
and him making the tequila slammer.
Yeah. So great start. I don't think that necessarily holds throughout the movie, although it does look very good.
Yeah, there are some great shots in the movie. There are some pedestrian. What are you doing, John Woo shots?
It's a wonderful mashup, let's say.
Sure. Of what?
Stop pressing me.
Look, you're making statements. I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from.
I can't back any of these up. The movie begins...
You're being egregious right now.
What does that mean?
See?
I've never seen a movie more being what it is than this, the first 10 minutes of this movie. This movie called Hard Boiled in a jazz club, titled Jazz Club, with the main guy playing the clarinet.
Yaz clarinet.
As it fades into like superimposed neon signs.
Mm-hmm.
Like there can be no question about what this movie is within the first 10 minutes. Like,
and again, I maintain that throughout this movie, John Woo is he continues to not be subtle in any form, in any way, in regards to what he's trying to get across for each character.
So, okay. I think that's where Face Off's going to come in, because we very much had that conversation about Face Off, you know, in the mirror moment and whatnot.
Sure.
There's obviously some DNA here. And yes, that none of how this movie begins is subtle.
No.
But I think there's a lot more underneath this than there is in Face Off.
I would almost certainly agree.
Okay. That might not be controversial, but...
For a variety of reasons. The least of which being, never forget that Face Off was then followed by Broken Arrow. So it doesn't matter what happens in life. Everything goes downhill is my point.
I think maybe this movie is more instructive too, is because it's a complete John Woo vehicle. He didn't write Face Off.
No.
But he did write this thing.
He didn't write it. He created the story for it.
Okay.
Which is, again, point of order.
Yes, it is yes, thank you. But not only does he have a story credit in this thing, he's in this thing.
He's in this thing, and he has at least 2 lines, if I remember correctly, that are pretty good lines and instructive for tequila.
Okay, so the way his part came about too, and I did Wikipedia this week like a good boy, was because Chow Yun-fat, I guess, had concerns that his character wasn't as deep as Long, the movie is very much about Chow Yun-fat, but I think it's equally as much about this undercover cop named Long, who's been in with the first gang for so long and kind of gets turned by the second gang, but very much like the first moment we see him, there's talk of loyalty, there's talk of, in fact, he has a very father-son relationship with this mob boss that he's serving at the moment, that he's undercover with at the moment.
Well, and I think the very first scene you see with him is actually when he murders.
That's true. Okay, sorry.
So we meet this character walking into a library to talk to a. He goes through the library, grabs a book, sits down in front of somebody, and they have a little discussion, and he shoots him in the head, puts the gun back, walks away. The things to notice about this particular scene that are, again, John Woo not at all being subtle. Did you see what book he had the gun in?
Oh, shoot. It was a Shakespeare.
It's a Shakespeare book. It's just a collection of stories. What are Shakespeare stories at best? They're tragedies. It's right
could just
there.
Be Shakespeare even, and that's good enough. Yeah, that's Woo enough.
Well, I mean, and they're like the same guy, John Woo and Bill Shakespeare.
in a manner of speaking.
Yeah. But that's our opening sequence with the character, and then he goes back to the Uncle Hoy, and he's not really his uncle, but that's what all his kind
that's the mob boss. Yeah.
And he refers to all of the people like as his children, kind of like as his sons and stuff. And
they obviously have a relationship. Like,
definitely.
That's where the loyalty comes out. And all that.
And the loyalty is a big part of that character's development for both the gangsters.
Yes. He's in too deep, as it were. He's had to kill some people.
Like the Lawrence Fishburne movie.
Yes. Oh, that is an actual movie, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Is it good?
It's all right.
Okay.
Keep going.
But that character of Long...
his name is actually in the movie Alan. His name is just Alan.
Oh.
The guy who playing him is named Tony Long.
Oh, that's weird. I swear in the subtitles it said Long. L-O-N-G. It may have, actually.
I can tell you for a fact that my subtitles had a number of incorrect phrasing, like when they were translated, definitely not correct. So
okay.
The fact that on my subtitles his name is spelled Alan and they call him, like, it sounds like Long. So
Along. So Along, that character, Chow Yun-fat's complaint, we're so far gone for like 30 parentheticals now, was that character was deeper than his own character.
Yeah.
Which he's right. So what John Woo did to kind of assuage that was give himself these parts where he's playing an ex-cop that owns a bar now, I think, where Chow Yun-fat goes.
It's the jazz bar. He owns the jazz bar.
That's true. The actual jazz bar. Jazz bar, it's called. It's called Jazz Bar.
Yeah, Clarinet Town.
But he makes himself the person that Chow Yun-fat goes to, I guess kind of in confusing moments to get direction.
Yeah. I kind of, that character is to me is he's the externalized version of Chow Yun-fat's thought process.
Okay.
That's how it comes off to me. Is like he's basically a living embodiment of Yun-fat Chow's brain.
Yeah. Well, regardless, I don't think it worked either. Like the Alan character is so much more. It's where all of the depth, where that more I was talking about when comparing this movie to Face Off, I think is from Alan.
Sure.
Like Chow Yun-fat doesn't have an arc really.
No,
it
really is he's upset that his partner was killed, and then he wants to get revenge on the people that caused the entire situation.
Mm-hmm. It's
got real simple.
And that's it.
And he's got a girlfriend that he's kind of on and off with, Alan definitely has the story.
Yeah, he's like I said, it's the In Too Deep thing, and he's conflicted with these two mob bosses because he is forced to betray the first one in favor of the second one, who I don't know if the case is made so much for that transition, like why he feels he needs to work for the second mob boss at all.
Oh, so so
I guess it's because the cops have put him in maybe to down that mob boss and not the first one.
That's how I read it. Okay, is that the Johnny Wong character has got more stuff, but yeah, they never explain it. And then the funny thing is the Johnny Wong character, that actor, who's I can't remember his first name, but his last name also Wong. He was upset at how the movie turned out because he thought his character was totally flat and had nothing going for him. He was like, I thought there was more to it. And
there are flat characters in this film. And
that character is like the mob boss. That's not the old man. That's the Johnny Wong character. He is flat and not threatening, and seems like he has motivation questions too. That's the other thing, is there are so many reasons for him to not do the things he does.
I bought all that stuff because he's not a threatening mob boss. He's a Weasley mob boss. He's the bad guy that's doing stuff because he's kind of scrambling at all times, or he
wants money. That's his whole thing.
Yes,
his whole thing is completely about money. He doesn't care about anything but cash.
Which I don't know. What else are you gonna do? That guy was complaining that character was flat.
Yeah.
I don't know what you do. I don't know. You maybe could have wrote him better. Like a lot of his lines, he literally speaks his motivations. Like I have a couple quotes where at one point he might even be looking right at the camera and he says, "I'll do anything to come out on top."
Right. Yeah.
Like, well, that's okay. What could his motivations be though? So whatever, flat. I would be more concerned that Chow Yun-fat's character is flat, but I'll lay it all out on the table here now. Where I think this movie works for me, where Face Off kind of didn't. We had that question about how it is so self-serious. It's not a Schwarzenegger movie. This is very much also self-serious. Like there's no winking and nodding per se. The Chow Yun-fat's character is kind of a loose cannon, and it is playing with tropes very not subtly as Wu does.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, this is trope filled.
But where this works, I think, and where it also helped me understand Face Off a little bit better, is this is, like I said, on its face from the very beginning, film noir, basically. Mm-hmm. And it is that not only in look, but also in theme. The protagonists from noir movies don't have arcs per se. Like they do not change in their movies more often than not.
Because their motivations are always pure. They're one track minded for us. Everybody else in the movie has other motivations.
It's very much a maze for film noir protagonists. Like they are very often out of the loop. Mm-hmm. Like they don't know. I mean, again, they're trying to solve a mystery, so it's part and parcel. But Chow Yun-fat occupies that space here in this movie. Like he for being the guy that's a dead shot, that's freaking great at his job. He doesn't know everything that's going on. Like he doesn't know about the undercover cop. Like he can figure it out because when he gets there, there is always a gifted nature to the protagonists. Humphrey Bogart's a good detective, so to speak. He is the guy.
They're bulletproof, what have you.
Sure,
there's something, yeah.
So Chow Yun-fat's got that, but he doesn't necessarily, he isn't in the loop, like I said. I mean, luckily he has the director to tell him what to do, but like in the movie. So I guess that helps. But what happens, I think, is that you buy the self-seriousness because it's wrapped in this noir wrapper.
Sure.
Like,
sure.
I started buying kind of all this craziness because it had this familiarity to it, I think, from that it borrows from that. And it doesn't go for I want to say by the third act, they kind of drop that entirely. And it's basically just set piece town.
Once you get to the hospital, it's just a
Yes.
giant set piece.
Yes.
There's no more coding there. There's no more, you're not hiding what this movie becomes.
Well, no film noir ends like that either, I want to
Right,
say. Like,
right. Well, yeah, exactly.
yeah. So looking at Face Off, I think maybe that's why, not that it doesn't work, but that it kind of doesn't have that glue to hold it together. Like it doesn't have this kind of noir backdrop that...
The woo glue?
The woo glue. Gosh dang it. So I don't know. I mean, Face Off is Face Off at the end of the day. And like by the third act, it's all just explosions and set pieces, and beautiful and extraordinary ones. But
yeah, and there's some great moments in the movie. The movie does have a number of set pieces which are pretty fun.
Yes.
That opening set piece, which by the way, interesting factoid, that entire sequence was shot before they had a script written.
Oh really?
Yeah, they shot that without a full script, and
you could do that,
and it works out, and it's a great moment. It's where you first see the double gun jumping thing with Tequila, and he has this incredibly cool moment where he kind of he's standing on like a balcony inside, and he kind of gets shot at, and he falls down and he hits the stairs, and as he hits the stairs, he's being shot at, and he leans back and like grinds down the stairs but runs, and then to find out that was improv by Chow Yun-fat.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah. So you've got Yun-fat Chow. I'm gonna get it wrong every time, and then I'm gonna correct.
I'm just gonna keep with the Chow Yun-fat.
Do it. It's you can be a filthy Americano. That was one of those just really funny improv moment. Then the other actually improv moment that he came up with was the flour. The one he gets covered in flour at the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was almost too much, so I loved it.
Yeah, that was good.
Like he's covered in flour because he dove across the flour table while he's getting shot, and then he shot the guy in the face, so the blood, so he's red and white dude.
Yeah.
Not that the improvisation wasn't great, but I think what also came together for me here is how, because obviously this is John Woo dealing with a lot of his favorite, I would imagine, American tropes.
Sure.
In fact, I think Dirty Harry is the one he drops most often when talking about this thing or something, which is weird because I don't see a whole lot of Dirty Harry in here. I
guess it could be kind of it's the Chinese take on the Dirty Harry character.
I guess I see less Dirty Harry movie and more Dirty Harry character, actually. That makes more sense. Yeah.
And that's how I've always, that's how I would see it if he's saying that.
But to me, it makes sense that he's taken these things and kind of enhanced them with superior choreography. Like there's a lot more inventiveness here. And yeah, it's we've seen a lot of it. In fact, a lot of it's been readopted by, the US in years after.
Well, but yeah, I mean, just by the simple fact of so many American companies, American producers bringing over, people from China and Japan, Thailand, all these people that are choreographers of that particular martial art.
Actual same people too,
I mean, look at The Matrix.
Yeah, it's Wu Ping. He was Ip Man 2 or 3, I think.
Yeah.
Like that.
So,
and that's probably a worse example because I think those came after The Matrix. So this becomes a great example, I think, of bringing these tropes over, but then enhancing them with what you do best, making them your own. Like this is a great example of him making some very like well-worn concepts. We're talking like 40s cinema here,
sure,
and killing it, making it look great, and doing your own thing with it. That's Woo in a nutshell.
It is. There's a feeling to this movie that you just don't get with Western movies, I guess. I don't know. It has all of those things. Like it's called Hard Boiled, for crying out loud. If the title doesn't make you think back to 40s, hard boiled detective novels and movies, I'm going to assume you're not as familiar with them, which is cool. Lots of great stuff back there. But John Woo does something pretty special with this flick. And that character of Tequila, he's you just want to see him doing things. Like I just want to see I just want to see him shooting things and being him. And like I love the bit with the jazz, and I love his weird jealousy kind of, but playfulness with his kind of girlfriend that they're on the rocks with.
That's so weird. Like they're
but I love
like,
the way
turns
that
out she's been getting flowers from the undercover cop the whole time. But
and
then he's like
relaying,
not even mad about it. They just kind of talk about it real quick. It's when they make friends kind of at the end real quick.
yeah, well, it's because look, he's just an undercover guy.
It's just an undercover kind of guy.
Yeah.
There's a couple weird like things that didn't land, you know. Like that moment's one of them.
Here's a moment. This is a moment that I absolutely just cannot get over, and I watched it 3 times because it is so funny to me. This is a moment that is funny to me in a weird way. Like the only analogy I can give you and how funny this is to me is do you remember Spaceballs when they get to the desert planet and just before they're found by the dinks, they're walking and they're all passing out? The sound Bill Pullman's head makes when it hits the sand is absolutely one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life. It is so funny. And it's like this, and Hard Boiled has this moment where Tequila is coming to confront Elan on his houseboat, and there's a like Tequila comes diving in and he grabs the gun, and they have the back and forth, and then all these guys show up and they start shooting at them. Okay, and so there's this shootout on the boat, and they finally get off the boat and they're running down the dock, and Elan says to him, "You've got to go. Those are Johnny Wong's men. Just get out of here." And essentially Tequila looks at him and goes, "Okay, don't screw this up." And then he dives into the water and just swims away. Where the hell does he go? He hides
under the dock.
He becomes Aquaman. And it's so funny because it's like he clearly, he's going to go hide under the dock, but it's so funny that he's like, "I've got to leave." Like I lost it.
It's a great comedy. No, it is. One of the other moments that didn't make any sense to me too was there's a part after they have come together and the armory is kept in the hospital because they wanted a weird setting and they got it. But they're trying to get into the door in the basement of the hospital to where the armory is, and it locks behind him because the keypad they can't hotwire. So he ends up doing this MacGyver thing while they talk about, I guess, semi-deep things.
Sure.
None of it was as impactful as the other conversations they have, like the one in the boat, for example. But he makes a hole in the pipe and then puts some gunpowder in there and then puts a bullet in there and then dead eyes it and it explodes and they get in the door. But at the very end of the movie, when he's shooting the bad guy, the Weasley mob boss, right through the eye, there's a quick... Like, that's the callback they make, is to when he shot the bullet in the pipe to get through the door.
Right.
I'm like, there's no weight to the shooting the bullet. Like, why is that the thing you think? I mean, I get that's where they're bringing up his skills as a Deadeye and whatever, but.
Oh, you don't, so that right there, maybe I'm wrong.
Okay.
I very well could be. I kind of assume that was a throwback to Lethal Weapon. Because that's what because look,
if it is, that's just worse.
Danny,
that's better.
Danny Glover does the thing where he rolls his head and then he go bam and he can dead eye things. But I don't remember if that was in the first movie or if it was in the second movie. And if it's the second movie, it's not a reference at all.
Okay. Within the confines of this film,
in any case,
that's the callback for the final shot of killing the bad guy in the movie makes no sense to me.
It's dumb because that setup doesn't, like, when he creates the thing and he does it for the first time almost towards the end of the movie, and it also doesn't actually work. They have to do something else to open the door.
No, that's the thing that does work.
Does it? Isn't it? No, because he shoots it and then he walks up to the door and he goes, and he slaps the door, and then they do something else, and that's how the door opens.
Well, even worse then.
Yeah, it was dumb. And it was dumb because he never does it or does anything like that really throughout the rest of the movie. Like, he doesn't do it at the beginning of the movie when he's like, he's in the middle of fighting. I guess you're supposed to assume that everything he shoots at is like that, but I don't know.
One of the other things that doesn't land...
Hit me with it.
And it is one of these instances where I think the movie is trying to be deeper than Face Off. Deeper than Face Off. That's a phrase I should discontinue use of.
I'm gonna tattoo that. That's knuckle tats.
But in that opening scene, like during that operation, during the tea house shootout, his captain lets him know that he killed a policeman that was in there. And
I know exactly what you're gonna say.
Okay.
Here.
And Tequila ends up talking with John Woo in the movie about it, about the John Woo, the bar owner, but also his captain about it. And they both kind of tell him, like, stop worrying about it.
Right.
Basically. And they're real. It's a real quick one-off things. Each of them are. But then it comes back in the hospital during the last scene when Alan also shoots a cop, like very obviously, like we see him fill the dude full of bullets. And then he starts to get concerned, like he's very much more affected by it, you know?
Yeah.
And he can barely go on. And it forces Chow Yun-fat to drop a couple lines about, like, get over it, basically, real quick.
Yeah, well, because
the things that come, like...
He tells him, he says, get past it, get over it. You didn't shoot a cop. It was you're hallucinating. Right. And then they go through some parts... Like, and then a few minutes later, he goes, did I really shoot a cop? And Chow Yun-fat says, yeah, so did I. It's fine.
Yeah, but that's what it comes down to. Like, at the very least, when the captain was talking to Chow Yun-fat, I think that he said something like, the cop sacrificed himself. You know, he wasn't killed, he sacrificed himself. That terminology doesn't come up again. So yeah, basically, I get shades of Popeye Doyle out of out of Tequila there at the very end.
And I don't think that's a bad thing.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm not sure it's purposeful, and not a lot's done with it. So that didn't really land for me. But I guess if you're, again, dealing with John Woo, who's dealing with these broad tropes in broad ways, then
one of my other favorite things about the John Woo movies is at no point does Yun-fat Chow ever need to reload his gun.
Sure, but that's to be expected.
Everybody else does.
Oh,
not him.
He does run out of bullets once.
After his magazine of 7,000 bullets went away from his 6-shooter.
The movie is fantastic. Don't get me wrong.
It's a good flick.
I want to say even like it better than Face Off, actually, because I think there is a little bit more depth. I kind of like the Hong Kong nature to it. I like that cinematic aspect.
Yeah.
I like the characters, even though maybe those aren't as good as Face Off, but they found plenty of reasons to jump and shoot. To slide and shoot. They found a reason to slide and shoot out of cadaver drawers at the morgue.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. So, they've done everything right. That, in fact, at some point, like, there's so much going on by the end of the movie and it does go on for a pretty long time.
The end is really long.
It's insane how much is going on. Like, they've got bad guys in different places, people shooting at different things, people jumping out windows, trying to save babies while stuff's on fire, and then the one-eyed guy is going around, who I was actually surprised how they got rid of the one-eyed dude. He was kind of the mini boss to the main bad guy, but he also had some honor about him, and at the end ended up sticking up to the bad guy. And the bad guy was the one who killed him. Like, I thought for sure Alon was going to be the guy that got to kill him.
You were thinking it was going to go raid style,
right?
Because they set it up for that. They they both the guys, him and Alon, are standing there. They've got guns trained on each other. They both put the guns down.
They set that up throughout the movie. Even
yeah. And that's cool. The Mad Dog guy, interestingly enough, was just a stunt dude. He was I believe a stunt coordinator that they were like, oh yeah, he can do that.
Because there's a million stunt guys in this. In fact, I was having a hard time coming up with, obviously there are big budget, crazy American movies out there, but on the scale of like practical stuntmen choreographed to the T, like this movie or a Chan movie, especially.
Yeah.
I cannot think of an American analog. It's fantastic the way they do it.
Well, when Keanu Reeves fought 1,000 major Mr. Smiths.
CGI.
I don't know.
You're right. There were some scenes where they were not CGI.
I'd have to go look at that because I think that was 100%.
Masks, yeah. Oh. It's a good movie.
Well, I'll tell you that this movie, it was, again, I'm fairly certain these were translated poorly, but one of the characters says, "It's got sweet F.A. to do with you."
I don't remember that line, actually.
I don't know that you saw it. That's the thing. We may have seen completely different movies.
Did you have the line, "Your pee-pee saved the day"?
I don't remember that, but it could have been.
Tell me. Okay, now I'm making a joke, but now I'm really... when he's rescuing the last baby out of the hospital and jumping out the window.
Yes, he does. He says, "Your pee-pee
the fire out on his legs, on his clothes." Okay.
So that also weird tidbit of trivia.
That also is weird.
The reason that ended up being put in the movie is because John Woo, like the babies were in the movies,
right?
And John Woo was like, every time he's picked up a baby, it peed on him. So he's like, I'm putting that in the movie. Also, fun fact.
I thought you were going to say how the babies are in the movie because the original script was about a baby poisoner. It was the main bad guy, but they thought that was a little heavy. Yeah,
didn't know that one. There was a fun on the because I have the movie on DVD. I've got the Dragon Dynasty DVD. There's an interview on there about there's a sequence at the end in the hospital where Yun Fat Chow, whoever you want to call him, the protector, he's running through a hospital and there's explosions going on around him. And they had to film it twice. The first time they filmed it, John Woo didn't like how it looked. So he had them reset all the explosives, which, again, thinking about that there. I
cannot believe they got that far, yeah.
He reset all the explosives, and then he took control of the pyro, and he set them off too late for Yun Fat Chow, and nearly burned him, and also nearly caught him on fire and burned him to death. And he was freaking out, and Yun Fat Chow was screaming that John Woo's trying to kill me, and then he cursed him out and said, "I hope you got what you wanted, you jerk." And then he walked away and came back like 5 minutes later and asked how it came out, and that scene is the one that's actually in the film.
That's wonderful. That's actually also no American analog to that. Like, that they are just way more cavalier about. Not safety, because there's plenty of outtakes where you can watch like they're on it and they every time Jackie Chan gets hurt, he's well taken care of. But yeah, you get the feeling that they are way more cavalier about setting fire off pretty close to themselves or whatnot.
Look, there are a lot of crazy people in the world, and I'm not saying that Asian continent has a lot of them, but I am saying there's this wrestler named Ibushi who lit off a bunch of fireworks, like the kind that like shoot out and everything, and he shot them at his own chest. And I realize it's Japanese. I'm just saying that you've got people that'll do that, and then you've got people in America that won't.
So you decide. Hardboiled's an excellent film. It's got at least 72 stars.
Out of 73.
Fair.
Excellent movie. Next week's movie from the book club for movies, our selection, we're going to check out Martin McDonald's 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, starring Frances McDormand, Woody Harrelson, and Sam the Man Rockwell.
I like it already.
That all being said, you can hit us up if you got more information and things you want to share, tidbits, trivia, just comment, podcast@bookclubformovies.com. But for now, that it's all done, let's just do the rest of the show.
Okay. Did you want to ever talk about Rampage? I think you watched it.
I did watch it. I watched Rampage. We can talk about Rampage. Let's talk about Rampage.
I don't want to talk about it for a long time, but I feel like if you don't get it out, I mean...
Rampage, the movie that came in an hour and 47 minutes, written by Ryan Engel, Carlton Cuse, Ryan J. Condal, and Adam Sixicle.
You're prepared.
Directed by Brad Payton, starring Dwayne, quote-unquote, The Rock, end quote, Johnson, Naomi Harris, Malene Ackerman, and Jeffrey Dean Negan. Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Sorry for all those not Walking Dead followers.
I don't usually do background for the after the show movies, but I got to say, maybe the one time we've mentioned this before was when the first trailer came out.
Yeah.
And it struck the incredibly wrong tone for me. Like, it was just, I'm not, I'd say I have to rewatch it, but I'm not going to. It was just completely self-serious and seemed wrong for a movie based on the video game Rampage. So
it did. And on top of that, I fully admit, I disliked from that trailer the fact that we found out immediately the monsters or the creatures are not actually people. They're
not.
Just mutated monsters, which again, why? Why would you not take the basis of the game and just follow through with it? It's way more interesting. Way more interesting.
If you're gonna make this ridiculous thing in the first place, where are you hedging your bets on a movie like this?
Yeah, why are you not leaning into it? Because you're right. That trailer, self-serious and.
But yeah, I guess that's the happy ending here. Is I think, and I don't know if you agree, but the movie itself, I actually think struck the right tone overall.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure I guess.
No, I didn't say it was good.
No, man, I tried to go into this. I go into movies. I don't.
Sure, blank slate.
Yeah, I mean, I can be colored by previews, by people's thoughts, of course, but I tend to be pretty good about going into a movie and accepting the movie for what it is, watching the movie for what it is, not what I want it to be, not what other people wanted it to be. Like that's, watching this movie for what it is, it's still not a very good movie. Like it's still way too self-serious for me in most parts. And it just wasn't really that fun. Like this movie was a kind of a drag for me. Like there were a couple moments here and there.
How did you like the beginning?
The beginning, holy crap. Give me that movie. Give me that movie.
First act is good.
Where is that movie? Because it just takes a dump all over everything that it starts with. Everything that starts in space. Oh my gosh, I'm actually interested in this movie. It looks good. I want to see it.
Paced well. The characters are interesting and mysterious. Like Naomi Harris, the main. I keep wanting to call her Moneypenny because that's the only thing I know her from
yes.
James Bond.
Miss Moneypenny.
She's good. Her character opens up in kind of a weird way. Like the beginning's good.
Yeah, no, the beginning is good. It just like it. Not only does it drag for an hour and 47 minutes, it's like I don't know, man. I go back to this and I think I talked about this before that I just am not head over heels for The Rock, and I don't know if I ever have been.
Tired of him. What? You're starting to doubt everything.
I like him in I think The Rundown is good. I liked him in the 2 Fast and Furious movies I've seen him in. He's been in other stuff, The Tooth Fairy, but I am just not super into this. I guess maybe it's not him. Maybe it's just the movies. Maybe it's just like his action movies.
He's doing a lot.
He's doing a lot, and his action movies just don't excite me. They're not like, I don't have the interest in seeing him do whatever he's doing because I guess maybe he's not doing interesting movies.
There's some quantity over quality, I think, going on here.
Skyscraper, Rampage. What was the other thing he did? He just did something else too. There's Skyscraper, Rampage. There was something else 6 months ago before that.
San Andreas was passable.
San Andreas, but it's all like they're all the same kind of.
They are
boring tent-pole-y something movie,
yeah.
and maybe I'm just like Schwarzenegger was the tip of that iceberg, the top of that mountain for me, and nobody ever really got to it again. Because there have been good movies, good action movies forever. Like I like the mechanic.
That's interesting. I mean, well, let's just put it this way: like 20 years from now, I can't see us looking back on movies like this the way we look back on what I'm sure were panned Schwarzenegger movies at the time that we think are pretty darn fun right now. You know?
That's the thing though, is I don't remember them being panned. I mean, there definitely were like the 6 Day, Last Action Hero, those all bombed. But Running Man, I don't remember. I mean, and maybe I was too young for it, for sure. But
too young to not enjoy movies like that. Yeah, I would probably.
But I also remember people talking about them like that's a great movie. It's a lot of fun. The movies that Dwayne Johnson is making are not as fun for me. And I still like those movies. That's the thing. It's like I like quote unquote big dumb action movies. And I have to come.
Yeah, no, it's probably not even worth talking about. I mean, we're post modern here. Like it's tired. He's riffing on being tired of riffing on being tired of riffing on, you know,
and I'm tired of it.
And we are a little bit.
So Rampage, not great for me.
I think if you think you know what that movie is, you do, and you might be able to have some fun with it. There's some fan service in there. I think when it gets down to let the monsters destroy the buildings for a while, there are some obvious calls to the video game.
Yeah, the climbing up the thing and stuff. I was actually kind of surprised that they didn't put in the most obvious of like wink and nods, which was none of the creatures smashed open a building that opened into somebody on the toilet,
right?
Which was one of the
or something.
That was totally one of those things that was like, or the bathtub that was like.
Again, where are you drawing the line on a movie like this? For what reason? You know,
right? No, exactly.
Interesting question, but maybe the only other thing we should mention about Rampage is actually Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Jeffrey Dean Negan.
Jeffrey Dean Negan. Who's the sole note I have when he appeared on screen was good old 90 Degrees is back. That's the angle at which he leans while delivering all his lines across mediums, it seems now.
Oh man, it's such a weird thing. Like, it's like he can't get away from being Negan now. And I just want to, like, at this point, just give him the baseball bat for every role. Like, maybe he should only make baseball movies.
He's not Negan in The Losers.
No,
he's not Negan in The Watchmen.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, he when he took that role, like, that role changed him in...
What is going on?
And I don't like it.
No, and I like him.
I like him a lot.
It's concerning.
Yeah.
In Rampage, the movie.
I did see one other movie this week, and
go.
I loved it. We went to the theater for this one. Movie that came out in the early 30s, 1932, I think.
Oh, right. We almost did the show on it this week.
Yeah, Horse Feathers comes in an hour and 8 minutes, written by Burt Kalmer, Harry Ruby, S.J. Perlman, Will B. Johnston, and Arthur Sheikman, directed by Norman MacLeod, starring the four Marx Brothers, Groucho, Harpo, Chico, Zeppo, Thelma Todd, and David Landau. It's a great movie. Just period, top to bottom. This was great because I got to see it in a theater on the big screen, which was cool. Just a ton of fun with a crowd that was super into it.
Good print.
Good print. Yeah, it was a solid print. It didn't look destroyed or anything. It was actually a good print, good sound. And my wife, Beth, she's familiar with the Marx Brothers, had never seen this one before. And so that was fun. This is a great Marx Brothers flick where Groucho becomes the dean of a college and his son is one of the one of the collegiates, and he is brought in to essentially help their football team beat the other better football team. And so he's sent by his son to a speakeasy to meet these two football players, who we then jump to the speakeasy, are already talking to the guy from the other college. And so Groucho, of course, gets mistaken, thinks Harpo and Chico are the football players. They, of course, are not. And hijinks ensue as they come to the college. They deal with each other and all that. Like every Marx Brothers movie, great songs. This one has two of the most memorable of their entire film library. One of them being very dear to me because it very much so is. It's very much so my song. It's actually a Groucho song right at the beginning, and it's called "Whatever It Is, I'm Against It." Stands to reason. It's exactly what you think it is. I think one of the cool things about this movie in particular, though, that I really like is because it was made in the early 30s, it's a pre-Hays Code movie. So it has a little more risque stuff. Nice. And for anybody who doesn't know what the Hays Code is, the Hays Code is kind of what eventually turned into the MPAA, where and the Hays Code actually kind of spun off. The comic book code was kind of spun off from the Hays Code as well.
Cows must wear pants.
No talking about sex, no drug showing, none of this. So it was all that stuff that the dresses have to be worn. You can't show knees, you can't have this and that, and it was censorship. That was just the guys. And it actually, the Hays Code was started in the 30s. It was started in 1930. Nobody enforced it until about 1935, and this movie was made right in between. So it has references to I don't remember. I think they call her the college widow, which was apparently it was a very common thing in olden days. The college widow was a woman who had been married to a professor, and he had died, and so she was there now for the students to come and partake in Adventure Time with.
Because she taught the class from then on out, I would
That's
imagine.
Exactly correct. Okay. So they would learn and they'd gain knowledge and become PhDs. So they bring that up. One of the characters in the movie is specifically that, and she is a main part of the movie. She's kind of the bad guy, actually, which is, it turns out to be great. I don't know what else to say about the Marx Brothers. If you're not familiar with the Marx Brothers, I honestly, I can't say anything other than you should go watch them. If you like comedy movies, these guys, the Marxes came from vaudeville. They brought their vaudeville stuff. This was actually based partially on one of their vaudeville shows. And most of their movies were based on their own vaudeville stuff they wrote. They were incredibly talented at slapstick. They were all incredibly gifted musicians, all incredibly funny. And the history they have together, and they were all actual brothers. That was one of the other things, is they're not like the Three Stooges were two brothers and another guy, but it wasn't
the interloper.
Yes, the interloper, Shemp. But they were all brothers, and so they spent their lives doing this together, and they loved each other, and it shows. Like, it shows how well they knew each other and how they played off each other was perfect. And watching them, watching Harpo play his harp and watching Chico play the piano the way only he can play it, he had such a fun and unique style of playing, and it was so smooth and fun and upbeat and almost circus like. And seeing Harpo, like, you get Harpo who has, somebody wants a cup of coffee, he pulls it out of his jacket, like, he has everything on him. And then to see him sit down, and after all the fun and all the like faces he makes, because if you don't know, Harpo never speaks.
Right.
In any movie, Harpo is silent. Everything the closest thing to communication he makes in terms of talking is honking a horn. But he plays the harp, and he plays it like, he sits down and you see him just go from this glowing, hilarious caricature to this hilarious, glowing, beautiful musician that plays the harp like it's nothing. And when I was a kid, I wanted to be Harpo. I wanted to be Harpo so bad. Like, my dad showed me the movies.
I've never heard that phrase before.
And you'd think, I'm such a loudmouth, I'm so obnoxious. I wanted to be Harpo so bad. I wanted to learn to play the harp. I wanted to have all the gags. I wanted to be I wanted to use my face for just expression and stuff.
I can just picture your dad right now. Oh, this is my kid. He wants to be Harpo.
Yeah, my dad didn't say a lot of nice things about me, but that was one of them. They're great movies. I highly recommend. Any of them really work. Horse Feathers, really good stuff.
Do we got a top 3 here?
Top 3 would be The Coconuts, Horse Feathers, and probably Monkey Business.
Okay, all right. I'm glad you mentioned the Stooges, because, and maybe it's because they were more prolific, I don't know, they got the play that the Marx Brothers never did growing up. Like, I saw Stooges on the TV all the freaking time. I don't know if I ever saw the Marx Brothers on the TV. And
that's probably because the Stooges also did shorts, whereas the Marx Brothers didn't. The Marx Brothers only made feature-length movies.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were never. I mean, they popped up character wise. They would pop up, like Harpo was in an episode of I Love Lucy.
I Love Lucy.
And
Groucho
had been on. He had what was the I can't remember what the show is called. You Bet Your Life. Maybe that was it. I can't remember what it was, but he had his show. Chico actually died fairly young and early.
I was say he's the one you kind of don't hear about.
And he was the first of the brothers to die, if I remember correctly. And then Zeppo followed. Then it was Harpo, and Groucho outlived them all. Not their real names, obviously. Mm-hmm. Well, Harpo probably didn't want to go by his actual first name when the 30s rolled around. Maybe a little bit later, I guess. His name was Adolf. So,
oh shoot!
Groucho's real name is Julius.
The comedy troupe of Julius and Adolf.
Adolf. Leonard was Chico. I don't remember Zeppo's real name. They actually had a cousin named Gummo too. And so that's it. That's Horse Feathers. It was a great time. I'm glad I got to see it on the big screen. Like I said, check out the Marx Brothers. They were fantastic.
I need to.
All right. Okay. I've talked enough. What did you watch?
I got 2, and they're both catch-ups, and I'll go through them real quick because they're both documentaries is how they're catch-ups. Huh. Because back when we did Hero, Dreams of Sushi, I was going to try to watch a bunch. So I got 2 more out of the way at least, and they were 2 that related to another movie that I talked about, The Post. Mm-hmm. After I saw The Post, I really wanted to go back and watch Fog of War, which was this Earl Morris documentary about Robert McNamara.
Yeah.
Earl Morris is a craftsman through and through. Like, it's been a long time since I've seen one of his movies, and they're just unimpeachable, I think, actually. They're gorgeous.
Always great looking. Yeah.
He's not afraid to interject, especially in this one. I guess he doesn't interject in most of them, but This one is very much just an extended interview with Robert McNamara, so the questions are a little bit more understandable.
But he's also not afraid to actually push a little harder, which
Yes.
is something that you do miss out on. I think a lot of documentaries miss out on.
Have a
that.
point of view and freaking tell it. Like
Yeah.
I kind of put him and Ken Burns in the same
Sure.
universe.
Yeah, I lump them together. They both do the same. Like you said, they both have a point of view on something and they tell it in the best way they can.
I would attribute that more to Morris, but obviously their style is a little bit. They're both kind of master craftsmen, I think, too. They make documentaries. Ken Burns can tell a story, I think, probably better than anybody else right now. Earl Morris can do that too, but he's this is a real bad way to put it. Kind of more of an artist about it.
Yes.
It's a bad way to put it because Ken Burns is a freaking his things are gorgeous. Like I've watched 2 seconds of Vietnam so far, and already it's probably the best.
They're different kinds of artists.
Hmm.
Painting in different styles.
But yeah, the Fog of War is great for the perspective it gives. It does kind of also the trademark Earl Morris thing where the subject he portrays is looked at so closely. Like I feel like that's Earl Morris's thing. Like like even cinematically, like he pushes in so close. Like I feel like his trademark thing is zooming in on a newspaper picture so close that you can see the dots, right?
Yeah, he's like the macro
Yes,
universe.
He's using probably a microscopic lens even. I wouldn't be surprised. But he also does that with the subject matter. And with this one, he pushes in so close to Robert McNamara, who speaks very frankly. Like that dude, I mean, we're talking about the guy that handled a lot of Vietnam, and the way he talks about it, wouldn't necessarily call himself the architect of it.
Sure.
But he worked for the people that were, so
Right.
the movie calls into question where that line begins and ends. And does so really well, and does so with the help of McNamara, who is very frank and isn't afraid to say that he was a war criminal in a way. The most plain question he probably asks is what makes he equates the U.S. to acting as war criminals. They just won the war, so
Sure.
and he asks what the actual difference is. So it's super good. Also, in light of watching a movie like The Post, the other documentary I watched is more so helpful if you're going to watch The Post. In fact, I would say, order of viewing, watch this movie. It's called The Most Dangerous Man in America, subtitled Daniel Ellsberg and the Pentagon Papers.
Yeah. That we've got that one in our queue.
Which is what The Post is very much about on its face.
Right.
From a different point of view, but there are actually points in this documentary that you see are lifted wholesale into The Post.
Sure. That's great.
But the documentary itself it's no Earl Morris. It is good looking enough. This was made in 2009. It kind of looks like maybe it was made in 2090s. Maybe it did come out on TV first. I don't know. It does say not rated, so I guess it could be a PBS production here. But the information it imparts is fantastic, and it's done by the people who were there. Daniel Ellsberg is the one narrating in this. And it's a lot of information that, as Americans, I feel like we should know. Like, I feel like I should have known, just period, coming out about this stuff. And it does deal with so McNamara had a study done on Vietnam, like a no holds barred, like what's actually going on in Vietnam. And of course, it came back very bad because of what was going on in Vietnam. Right. And that study got leaked by this man, Daniel Ellsberg, who worked for the Pentagon or the government at some point, or worked for the agency that commissioned the study at some point. I forget. But got the papers out there, leaked them, and just the story behind that is amazing. It's like I said, stuff I feel like I should have known. In fact, there's recordings in there of Nixon. That dude, like, I know that dude's a slime ball. Like, I'm steeped in popular culture enough.
Sure.
But that dude's an evil slime ball. That dude is an evil, evil man. There's lines in there where he's just talking about civilian deaths, like just berating people that have a problem with it. Like, it's freaking nuts.
Yeah, it's very instructive, isn't it?
It's super freaking instructive.
Politics are awesome.
Yeah.
Always support them.
So watch Most Dangerous Man, then watch Fog of War, and then watch The Post, and you'll get a lot more out of The Post, actually.
That's awesome. Good. Yeah, I Most Dangerous Man we've got queued up.
Yeah, definitely.
I do have one other thing I just want to briefly mention. There is a documentary series. I didn't know this was a series. I got sucked into this completely on accident, actually, called called Hospital, the series or something like that, and it's a documentary crew that's an actual crew that are filming stuff in UK hospitals. And I saw this, the one that I ended up watching, like I turned it on my phone and I got sucked into it, and it's an hour long and I didn't move. Like I was watching it. And they were filming right as just so happened the Westminster bridge attacks happened. And so this whole episode is about how the hospitals coordinated, how they dealt with the influx, how they dealt with what was happening. And you find out a lot about how hospitals work in real life, and why things like why a hospital you want to go to may not be the one you're taken to, because things like beds don't exist. You know, I don't think about things like that. Right. I just assume if I'm sick and I need to go to a hospital, I can go and it's fine. They talk about that. They talk about the like that they have this set up for emergencies, for disasters, and that they how they deal with it, and it was really fascinating, really, really good. And it was if you just look it up on Google, hospital documentary Manchester or Westminster attacks, you'll find it. And it's good.
Cool.
So that's the show. Next week, don't forget, check out 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Let us know what you thought about it. We're excited about this one. I am, anyways. I like Francis McDormand. You can't go wrong.
No, you can't.
Yeah, podcast, bookclubformovies.com. We're on Twitter. We're everywhere. Just hit us up. Talk to us. Let us know what you think.